I'm presenting on the side of animal testing, that it shouldn't be allowed. Okay, personal beliefs, I do believe that it should be limited. Maybe not so much banned, but it should be limited. As an animal owner myself, I see my dogs all the time, and they're just as human as us. And really, how could someone harm them or even do anything like that to them? Alright, a little bit of background. Animal experiments have been conducted in the past about to show behavior in animals and how they like how they think, how they react, conditioned stimulus and all that stuff. Quite a few of those were actually a little unethical. Like Pavlov's dog, he had the dog chained up and pretty much connected a tube to its mouth, and he just monitored its saliva use, and he pretty much tortured this dog trying to see if it would salivate when there was food right in front of its face. It's kind of rude. And then Harlow's monkeys, that's one where he actually had a baby monkey and there were two dolls. One was like a furry doll, it was supposed to represent the mother, and there was one that was wiry, and it didn't want to go towards the wiry one. And it was just, I don't know, it just kind of like feels like it would traumatize the baby monkey, in all honesty. And then for the pros, what I found in the articles is that animals do in fact have emotion. If you own an animal, it's obvious to see that if you enter the door and you haven't seen them for a long time, they miss you, they want to see you, they get happy. And what happens if you deprive them of something that they're happy of? They're going to get really sad. So I mean, even then, would you want to put yourself or another person in that situation? On top of that, 3 million die annually. This counts flies and everything like that, and insects. So I mean, it's not really... A lot of those insects and animals do have a short lifespan of a few days or so, but some do, like dogs and cats, they do die from these experiments. And although I'm going to say this again, although they're different, they do feel like us, and if we were going to subject them to that amount of injections or inhalation of pollutants or teratogens, I mean, would that really make sense? To continue this, animals that you do take from the wild, or that are even born in laboratories, there was a recent thing about beagles, and there was a laboratory where they were subjected to pretty much torture, inhaling a bunch of pollutants, and these people liberated them. It was in Nevada, actually, and once these beagles saw the outside and they got on the grass, they were the freest things ever. And inside, they're kept in these small cages, not even warm, just metallic cages that are harsh environments. And then how can you deprive these animals of the environment that they're supposed to be in? And then they may not be physically harming these animals, but in all honesty, with the amount of stress that they're putting them under, and even then depriving them of their environment, it's going to cause some psychological stress. And even then, another thing is, would that be ethical to do to another person, to just basically rip them from their environment or keep them in this small padded room and then we're not even padded, but like barred up metal floor? Would it make sense to really just keep them in that room? Could you stand to let another person be like that? And then in conclusion, there have been advances in medicine and psychology in a bunch of different fields. But there are other ways that we can go about this too. We don't necessarily have to do it unethically to other animals. We could also maybe use people who are willing, that have more free will, that can actually speak for themselves. And to talk about the con side, we go to Emily. There you go.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm going to be introducing the con side. As you could see from my partner's presentation, there are some potential pros to this. However, I personally believe that the cons far outweigh the pros. Early on, testing of animals was indeed cruel and inhumane. Early Greek, Roman, and French philosophers all used animal testing, saying that the ends indeed justify the means. Starting in the 19th century, however, there was an increase in public objection to this, due to the fact that there was an increase in pet adoptions. The Queen of England herself said that she wanted to put a stop to animal testing. Scientists, however, still argued that it was ethical because of the medical benefits. Today, in modern times, there are groups like PETA and the AWA who are against animal testing, but scientists still stick by the benefits. I would have to agree that the benefits far outweigh the consequences. Therefore, I do not believe that animal testing should be banned. The benefits of animal testing are immense. Our knowledge of diseases in the body have come a majority from animal testing. Not to mention, testing has aided in psychological experiments. Annually, humans consume thousands more animals than we actually experiment on. There are 5 main reasons that we should continue animal research. These are for basic research causes, they're a great model for human diseases, pharmaceutical, toxic testing, and surgical procedures. Did you know that 99% of the genomes in the gene of mice and humans are direct counterparts? The use of animals has aided in the cure to many diseases. Mice only live for approximately 2 to 3 years, which allows scientists to study them over the span of an entire life, and also they can do it across generations. Our knowledge of the body has greatly increased and would be far worse without having tested on animals. Much of our knowledge of the endocrine, the nervous, and immune system has come directly from this research. Our knowledge of breast cancer, brain injury, childhood leukemia, and so much more has been helped out greatly. In addition, our psychological knowledge has increased, such as he pointed out, the Harlow monkey experiments. Yes, it was in the past and wasn't conducted in the most ethical, but ethics have changed. And even though done unethically, it showed us how important nature was to an organism, which changed how orphans grew up, especially in places like Russia, where they had very bad conditions for humans. Research animals, or ethics has changed since the beginning of animal testing. We no longer treat animals as if they feel no pain. Research is now being done more ethically. The AWA had legislation passed in order to protect the rights of animals, and these ethics ensure that animals are being treated and cared for. Research animals who are stressed provide poor results, so it is in the interest of the research to actually make sure that the animals are in a good environment and not to cut corners. They have caretakers and vets who keep the animals unstressed and happy. Now I have a video to show about how modern research facilities are done.
So here we are in the research laboratory, and today in the lab, to give you an example, some of the animals we have here, we have mice that we're using to find new treatments for human prostatic and breast cancer. We have mice that we're using to unlock the mysteries of Down syndrome. We have pigs with coronary arterial stents used to treat cardiovascular disease. We have zebrafish that we're using to find treatments for pituitary cancer. We have rats and mice we're using for gene therapy to cure glioblastoma multiforme. And we have dogs that have telemetry devices implanted in them to measure intraatrial and ventricular pressure to treat heart failure patients. This is Oreo. All dogs have names. This is Red, this is Oreo, Raccoon. Raccoon's quite a character. Hi Raccoon, how are you? How are you, good girl? How are you? Hello. Hello, good girl. Our dogs get out to exercise and socialize twice a day with their caretakers and the other dogs. We have a toy rotation program. You can see that Raccoon actually likes this particular toy quite a bit. The best thing for dogs in a research setting is actually human interaction. And all of our technicians who are very compassionate about the animals spend considerable time socializing the dog. Something that is not discussed much, recognized much, is the amount of regulation that applies to the use of animals in medical research. In my opinion, and we have human subject research here as well as animal subject research, there are actually more regulations that apply to the use of animals in medical research than there are to the use of human subjects in human research. We must have an institutional animal care and use committee, a so-called ethics committee, that actually has public representation.
Okay, so basically what this video showed was how animals are treated today. As you could see, obviously the dogs love that guy who goes into the lab and says, "Oh, hey, raccoon," and you could see the special bond that they had. They all have names, they all have faces, and they're all cared for. When we don't test on animals, things like the thymide disaster occur, which was a birth defect in pregnant women. The testing on animals after humans showed this, but the damage was already done. I guess the final question that I would have to ask would be, if it came down to it, would you rather save the life of an animal or a human?